Good morning, and welcome to the Dawn Safari here on Djuma, a western section of the Sabi Sands, a western section of the Kruger National Park, and the Kruger National Park, the western section of the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. Here we find ourselves in the northeast corner of South Africa, the world's most beautiful and magnificent country. And I'm going to stop here and just give you a little bit of information as to what we're trying to do this morning. You are, first of all, on a live safari. And, sorry, excuse me one second. That means that we very much... Oh, I've lost my microphone. It's all happening. While I find it, Dave, let's look at the moon. The full moon is about to set, everybody. The moon that rose over Earth Day yesterday. Now, you are on a live safari, like I say, and that means that we would very much like to hear from you. And I know that we have already heard from some of you on the hashtag Safari Live or the email questions@wildearth.tv. A number of you have told us that you saw a leopard around 20 to 6 at the Djuma Dam Camp, which is just down over there. We're now following up to see if we can't find some tracks. By we, I mean me, James, and David is on camera today. Hello, Dave.
Hello, James.
Yes. David, I haven't yet to announce that you have that interesting string thing hanging from your hair. That's David's sort of unique characteristic.
Indeed.
All the cameramen have some very strange characteristics about them. On the other vehicle, Samwise Gamgee is driving around like a mad hobbit. He's being filmed by Viam, who is also quite similar to a mad hobbit, in fact. And in the final control, I've only just realized that as well, we have Louise Pavid, and she is being assisted by Rebecca Christensen of Denmark today. Right, we're going to drive around quarantine clearings here. The lions were going ballistic during the course of the night. Sounded like the four Birmingham boys are somewhere around here. So we're going to look for them. We're going to look for this leopard, and we'll see what happens. Thank you. Ooh, wildebeest here, looking very relaxed and unpanicked, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah.
There he is. The thing about a start like this, when you've got lions yelling their heads off, leopards apparently at the pan, so often what happens is that we then find nothing. But with any luck today, that will not be the case. Now, there are no tracks coming up here to quarantine clearings, so I think what we're going to do is going to head towards Mvubu Road, which is the other side of the dam. Anybody who did see that leopard, please tell us if you have any idea as to which direction it went. And by which direction it meant, I mean, if you look at the pan, there's that collection of logs on the other side of the pan. That is due east. Okay, so that's due east. To the left-hand side of the pan is north. To the right-hand side is obviously south. There are plenty of hyena tracks on the road here. Yes. And behind the pan, which is towards quarantine clearings, is west. So if you have any idea where that leopard went, it was 20 minutes ago. A leopard can disappear in less than 20 seconds. So, I mean, we still have got a fairly good chance of finding him. I don't see any tracks here, but let's keep having a look around. Let us know. Remember, hashtag Safari Live questions@wildearth.tv. You are most welcome to this African dawn. It's apparently a balmy 18 degrees Celsius. This is an absolute foul and contemptible mistruth. It's probably about 22 over here at the moment, and that puts us at roughly 74 degrees Celsius. All right, let's head across to Sam, get an introduction from him, and I'll have a quick squiz around here for the tracks of leopards or lions.
Good morning to everyone that is here with us, Wild Earth TV in the Sabi Sands. This morning it was myself and Viam. We've been listening to the sound of lions roaring all night. It was incredible to wake up to the beautiful moon that you just had a look at, and then to hear that sound of that male lion roaring. We are currently just looking around for those lions, just around Gallagher Shortcut, to see if we can relocate on those lions. So James is now looking for the leopard, and I am looking for the lions. Slowly but surely we might just find them, because apparently there were tracks that were heading into the block here. But it's my first or second time behind the camera with Viam. Viam has been on holiday, and And so now we are together, and it's going to be our first time tracking lions. But the sound of those lions last night was, there's just nothing like it. Waking up in the morning to that sound, it's truly incredible. Makes you feel very alive. Now we're just scanning the area to see if we can find those tracks. So apparently there was a report that there was a leopard at the pan this morning. That's very exciting. So you heard lions roaring on the dam cam, and you also saw a leopard. So there's all sorts of things that could be on the show this morning. We just have to pay attention now and see if we can locate them walking through this wilderness. Oof, let's go around here. Let's see if we can hear any signs of the bush, whether it be a bird, alarm calling, or a leopard. Alarm calling at either a lion or a leopard. So as we move through slowly here, I'm just going to be scanning. We had an amazing look at the moon last night. We saw the rabbit in the moon, and we saw the big Birmingham males as they lay down. Very, very lucky to have 4 of them on the property over the last 2 days. But I don't think it's over. I think they might just want to stay here for a bit longer. Apparently there was a little bit of commotion between some of the lions last night, so it'll be interesting to see what happened. And that's the crazy thing. We are diurnal animals. So we don't know what happens at the night time, and there's just a whole story that unfolds overnight that we just are clueless of. We have no idea what happened. So I've heard on the other radios that there was a big commotion between those lions. Very interested to see what happened. From Oregon is asking, do the safari guides watch Safari Live when they go on leave? Yes, we do actually watch it sometimes. I mean, I go out. Well, I've just started here, so I started watching them when I was last year. Since I came for my interview, I came and then watched Jamie and watched James and all of them. But you would have to ask the presenters that have been here for a lot longer if they go on holiday and watch Safari Live. I most certainly will when I finally go on holiday, which will be in June. So you've got me for the whole of May, which is my favorite month because it is my birthday. So we're looking everywhere. I just heard over the radio it was a commotion between 2 males that were fighting. And it could be the Salati males, which are close by here. Those were males that I used to see when I was training at Londolozi. Far south, very, very south. It looks like there was a commotion. Alright, let's go and see what James is doing. We're going to see if we can find some more tracks. I'll see you shortly.
So no leopard then. Apparently someone posted a screenshot of a leopard at another pan, and it wasn't this pan, so there was no leopard. There were reports of impala alarm calling. Remember that they are in the middle of the rut now, and it is still confusing to me even sometimes when they make that rutting noise as to whether they are fighting with each other over ladies or terrified of something that might want to eat them. Anyway, so we won't be looking for a leopard in this particular area. Well, we will, but not the one that was seen at the pan, because that was probably in northern Botswana. We are now going to check up Mvubu Road to see if we can't find the source of those lion roars that we heard this morning. Apparently there was a huge fight on Buffelshoek last night. I'm not sure who was fighting with whom, but the Nkuhumas were running around and the Birmingham boys were running around, so I'm not sure exactly what was going on. I don't know if the Salatis came down. We will get an update from them at some stage. But I think those lions came down south here sometime during the course of yesterday evening, and they were roaring inside this block just behind our camp. Here we go. No. I mean, I think their tracks will be fairly obvious. I don't think we'll miss them. It should be those 4 big male lions. I wonder if they didn't kill something in here as well. The last time I saw those Birmingham boys on a buffalo kill, they would eat intermittently and then roar loudly. That's not what a lion sounds like at all. So I will just keep my eyes on the ground here. The sun will shortly peep up over the horizon, which we will show you. And there is a kind of path that goes through from the old hyena den here on Mvubu Road, and it goes all the way down through to the Galago Pan. Now, I'm not sure which route Sam has chosen to take, so I'm just going to find out from him. Sam, what was your route from the camp?
James, I'm done Galago shortcut and now I'm coming down to Mvubu and we're going to head towards the Pan.
Okay, copy. I'm on Mvubu now. There are tracks of a male leopard going north up this road, by the way.
Should I go back to the main, because I'm very close to the junction, and carry on to the east and take the next road to see if I can find tracks?
Yeah, if you like. Otherwise, go west. I'm not sure which one you think is best. There's definitely tracks of a male leopard going up this road as well, so let's keep an eye out for that.
Okay, copy on that. The station has gone towards Buffelshoek, so I'll go back in a westerly direction to see if we can see anything around Sandy Patch.
Okay, copy. Good idea. So I don't know if you heard that. Sam is going to head towards Sandy Patch, which is basically straight into the moon there.
I'm driving east, I'm almost that way.
Let's just have a little listen. Copy that, thanks. While we look at the moon. So I always find it so deeply pleasurable to watch the moon set as the sun rises. I think it's an amazing thing. We had a spectacular moonrise last night. Those of us who were not working, well, not officially working on safari, went out tracking yesterday, and we had a really spectacular experience of the moonrise over quarantine clearings yesterday evening. And if any of you are romantically inclined, of course, a moonrise in the gentle, warm breeze of an African autumn evening, well, there's possibly nothing more romantic in all the world. All I can hear is robins, the woodwind section of the orchestra starting up. No lions roaring like the great brass.
Stations, male leopard track heading north over Buffelshoek at the junction.
Samwise Gamgee has found this male leopard track. He's going north across the Buffelshoek boundary, I'm afraid. So what that means is that we won't be able to follow up there. Monkey Man, while we drive along here looking hopefully for lion tracks, you want to know about an open-billed stork, which of course doesn't leave an obvious track, and whether or not we get it here. The open-billed stork, now just called the open bill for no logical reason whatsoever, is found here every so often. They will probably fly through every so often, but not commonly. They will be very uncommon in this particular area. Trying to listen to the radio. Ah, there we go. Now it's in my ear and you don't have to listen to it. So, Monkey Man, no open-bill storks here. Let me just quickly show you a picture. simply because it's a really good idea to stop and listen every so often. But an open-billed stork is a stork species, and unsurprisingly has a bill that is, David?
Open.
Yeah, it is correct. Well done. So they're uncommon, but they do come through here every so often. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was one at Buffelshoek Dam earlier, I think late last year. And I think he then disappeared quite quickly. But he's got that very distinct open bill, which helps him to catch food. I'm not sure how. There we go. Monkey Man. It's an interesting dawn question about an open bill. Come on, Wendy, you old bat, let's go. Wendy does take a while to warm up in the morning. Hello, Ellen. Lovely question about North. You're in North Dakota. A lovely question about lion dynamics, and do I think there could possibly be some kind of new lion takeover going on with the Salatis and the Birminghams? I definitely don't think the Salatis have got any chance of taking over from the Birminghams. There are two males. They are much bigger than the Birminghams, but there are only two of them, and one of them has a very severe limp and has had for a long time. I think what you find is that the Birminghams have just come up against the southern end of the Salati territory. And so I think they're just knocking about, trying to protect their northern boundary, the Birminghams, and the Salatis, their southern. But we're just looking for tracks here. There also are reports of cheetah around Cheetah Plains, so we might send old Gamgee over that side, given that he is driving Rusty, who has the signal there. But I don't see any sign of lions, and I find that very odd. They may be further south already, but I mean, one would expect to have found some form of track coming across the boundary. Unless they are no, Jorst has checked further east. So the guys from Buffelshoek are checking to the east, and we will check to the west. Sam is further along this road. He's gone all the way towards Sydney's Dam, and so we will turn down the sort of shortcut to Gallagher. Some of the road names here are quite interesting. We have Gallagher Shortcut, and two further shortcuts coming off that shortcut, which means there are lots of shortcuts off the shortcut. Okay, let's head across to Sam, get an idea of what's happening his side. See you shortly.
So we are slowly but surely moving our way west to see if we can locate on those lines. We've got some tracks that are just to the side of the vehicle here. So we're going to slowly move in this direction to see if we can find them. Could be tracks from last night that one of the males was walking in order to display dominance over his territory, and then moved into the or further north into Buffelshoek, but we're just going as slow as possible to see if tracks get to a male lion. So we are having a look, and it seems that there was a dispute between the Salati males and the males that we have here, the Birminghams, and they are fighting for territory at the moment, so that's why we had some aggression between the two. And the Salatis, just two of them. Tayo's asking, could the lions be fighting over a kill? It's always possible that can happen, but I highly doubt it. As you know, the tension is a lot more around territory at the moment between the different lions. But it could have been the Birminghams that were fighting over and having some aggression with each other over a kill. But the report from last night that was two males fighting somewhere around here. So that's what we've got. It's a little bit of a wild goose chase at the moment. Got some impala to the right here. As we can see, they're very relaxed, so they're not too concerned about what they've seen. But the moon is still very clear in the sky. You can see quite a few different colors. It's been a fantastic evening watching all those different colors with that moonlight. And we sat with that moon on the other side of the horizon. So now we're coming closer to an open area where this is where Sydney's Dam is. Are those tracks still on the left there?
I lost them a long time ago.
We lost them? Okay, cool. So we're going to go and then we're going to go up here. So we're just turning around. Ooh, lions. Lions, everybody! Let me just call that on the radio. Stations, we have located the lions. They are at Sydney's Dam. Oh my word, half and A firm, static. Man, that was exciting, eh? A firm, 4 males here, static, about 100 meters from Sydney's Dam. Lying up about 50 meters from the road. Wow, so that is, ooh, one's getting up. Hello, big, beautiful male. So we've seen you all over our property over the last few days. So I've got to know you a bit better. What happened last night? Let's have a look at each of the individuals to see if there's any cuts or scrape marks from a fight that they had last night. Look at that golden mane and that dark. That is a very prominent dark mane that he has closer to his chest there. And most of the time when it comes to those dark manes, it means more of a dominant gene. So they're still slightly active. They'll probably be lying up in this position for a couple more hours, because as soon as it gets hotter, they're going to find shade. And why it's quite interesting that they are here is because they're close to the watering hole. And we know what wants to come to the watering holes in the morning or the afternoon. All sorts of impala and antelope and all the different creatures of the bush. So the lions will get up, go somewhere to lie down in the shade. We could have some action either this morning or later this afternoon. Wow. Thanks guys, it wasn't the hardest thing to find these lions. I just literally followed the road and followed them shouting all over the bush this morning. So it was also thanks to Wiem, who was helping me on the side of the vehicle looking for tracks, and we followed those tracks, listened to those beautiful sounds of the male lions, and next thing we knew, we saw them lying up by Sydney's Dam. So we've got 4 here, and I'm still quite interested because I haven't seen the 5th male yet. I'm not sure where he is. There's been no report of the 5th male lion. So everyone's also quite interested where that 5th male lion is. Maybe that lion was the one that was part of the fight last night. He could have been on his own against the Salati males. But just having a look at these 4 males and the sound that they were making last night, it must have been these 4 males that were part of that fight that was going on last night. let's have a look again at the lines to see if we can see any scratch marks. So the one on the floor, fast asleep. He seems to be in good condition. I think this could be Blondie. Is this Blondie? If it is, hashtag Safari Live. Sam, that is Blondie. I'll be very grateful for that little bit of information. That's most definitely not Blondie. That dark mane is very, very prominent. Kimber on YouTube is saying, are their manes starting to get a little bit darker? Well, I've only just arrived, Kimber. I've never actually saw them grow up into these beautiful lines that they are today. So they very well could have grown this dark mane over the time. So the answer is yes. They have grown this darker mane over time. I just haven't been privileged to witness them grow into this dark mane. But so they're still quite young males, strong looking males that'll look after this territory as best as they can. I just want to get back onto the radio. Someone's trying to get hold of me. Grant from Torchwood, come in for Sam. Please go ahead with your message. Okay, copy. So here we are with these 4 male lions. You can see in the distance they're very, very close there to Sydney's Dam. There's a beautiful sunlight that is just making its way over the horizon. So they've been walking the territory all night, and I woke up this morning to the sound of those lions. It got me so excited. It got me very excited to hear these male lions calling. I really wanted to find them, so we found them, which is cool. It's very, very cool. Look at him sitting up there, looking over his territory as he moves his tail left to right. Hello. Look at your eyes. Incredibly good looking male. With that, let's go and see what James is doing at the inactive hyena den, and then we'll be here, so we're not leaving anywhere.
Well, what we're up to basically is looking at the sun, which has come up, and it is now being filtered gently by the feathered chloris, or Chloris roxburghiana. That's the grass that we have there. And it really does just filter the sunlight so very specially at this time of year. And that grass is growing atop a termite mound. And within the termite mound is normally the great joy of, or one of the great joys of my life, and that's the hyenas, the young cubs. But they unfortunately are not here at the moment. There are plenty of fresh tracks around, so I think what's happened is that the adults are not here, and that actually doesn't surprise me. I'm sure the babies are inside here. I wouldn't park this close, I have to say, unless I was very sure that they were completely comfortable with us, and we know that they are totally comfortable with us. So I just wanted to look around here to see if they weren't inside or not. Tracks all over the place, not many tracks of adults. What I suspect is the presence of those lions, which is not far from here. They're probably only about 250 meters or so, which is about 750 feet up in that direction there. And I suspect they were shouting their heads off last night. And what I suspect is that these hyenas have dispersed into the kind of bush, they've disappeared, and the babies will be down in their burrows waiting for things to calm down. Big lion fight, hyenas do not want to be in the way when lions are having conflict with each other. The one thing that is in great abundance today is flies. They are everywhere. Let's go back across to Sam while we extricate ourselves from here.
VM has just spotted something on the other side of Sydney's dam. It looks to be a hippo that is out of water. This is strange. As the lions are very close by, you would think that the hippo would want to get over. So you can see his ear moving. So, oh, sorry, that wasn't an ear. That was the red-billed oxpecker. But it's interesting to see that the hippo is outside of water. It's definitely alive. He's moving. You can see him. Looks like he's feeding or he's just resting. I wonder if he knows that the lions are right here. It could be quite an interesting behavior to see what he does when he eventually sees the lions are not so far away from him. And they'll most likely be a male hippo. He's dominant in the watering hole. That's a beautiful shot. If you want to screenshot that, Sydney's dam in the background, the red-billed buffalo weaver's nest in the tree, and beautiful dominant male just scratching himself. What did you get up to tonight or last night? Let's quickly see what bird James has got.
We may just need to roll forward.
Everybody, I'm just going to roll forward slightly. The only reason I've dragged you away from the lions and the hippos is because Sam said he wanted to see this bird. And I haven't seen it for a long time. And he said today that he wanted to see that bird. It's called an indigo bird. And it is a brood parasite, like a cuckoo, basically, of the fire finches. And I'll just quickly show you which one it is. That one with its red legs and white bill is called the dusky indigo bird. Let's go quickly back to Sam.
Louise, come on, Louise. The hippo is up. The hippo is up, and he is walking to the watering hole. He doesn't seem to be at all in a hurry. This is so cool to see the hippo out of water. It's not often you get to see something like that, and to see it in the same shot as 4 male lions. That is incredible. Wow, that is a great sight to see so early in the morning. It seems that he's probably been grazing all night, and then he went for a little rest just by the watering hole, so not too far away from home. But it just seems that he's walking the perimeter of the watering hole. Oh, that's a great shot. Screenshot that. The lion walking towards our car, and a hippo in the distance. He shakes his mane. Where is he off to? This is good. He's walking right in front of us now. The other males are still very, very quiet. Move. Single male lion is now crossed back into Djuma. 3 of them are still sitting up by Sydney's dam. There, scent marking. We just saw some scent marking from that male lion. There you know, he's carrying on. Okay, cool. Let's see if we can get a good viewing of this male walking through his dominant landscape. Wow, look at that. Louise, please can you go on that question again from Andy and Julia about the black tip of the tail? You know, similar to, so the question was, what is the purpose of the black tip? So similar to leopards, sometimes when they are going through a territory and they've been spotted, they'll lift their tails up like a signal to say, I see that you have spotted me, I'm going to make my way away from, ooh, he's scent marking again. But it can also be to help with the other lions to follow each other, so it's a following signal. Look at that. So the other three lions are still on the other property. I'm going to see if we can get a better angle. Look at this size. You can actually see some blood on the right leg of this lion. So that could very well have been from last night. That's so cool to get up and walk for us, eh? That's cool. So he has found his spot in the shade. He is now on our territory. Did you hear that? I can hear something. What is that?
Sounds like people in a call alarm call. Alarm calls. Makes the people.
That's a hippo. Let's just go and see what the other males are up to quickly before we know where you are. Just reversing to see where those other three lions are. Yes, they are there. We can still see them just sitting close to Sydney's dam. So my prediction is that those three male lions are going to get up and move towards this shade, and this is where they're going to sit up for the rest of the day. Ooh. Let's just have a look and see that hippo that is making all that noise in the watering hole. It could be an alarm call from the hippo. So much action in the morning. So we can still see him. James Richard is commenting that they're actually looking relatively unfazed from the scrabble that they might have had the night before, and that you hope that the Nkuhumas are doing okay wherever they are. James, I would also love to know how those females are doing. They do look relatively relaxed, but they are still quite awake. You can see the ears are still prominently up on those two over there, but that could have been from the hippo making that very significant sound. So we're now sitting in between the one lion that's lying up on our property and the three others that are still at Sydney's. So I'm going to sit in this position because I've got a feeling as the morning progresses, those lions are going to try and find shade, and I'm hoping that they'll come and find shade close to it. Ooh. Grant is asking, has a lion ever charged me? Grant, I've had one interesting encounter with a lion when I was training as a ranger, and I was walking in the deep south. It was actually, I think, with one of the males that have been fighting with these male lions, the Salati males. They are on the deep south of Londolozi when I was training there a couple of years ago, and I walked into those two males with some of the females. And they just got up and they had a look at me and they just had that deep, deep growl. And I just stood my ground and then they ran away very, very quickly. They were way more scared of me than I was of it. And that's what, once you get to understand lions and predators a bit better, you'll see that they are way more scared of humans than we are of them. With that, let's go and see how James is doing.
We've left the indigo bird, everybody. Clearly you didn't want to see it. All you wanted to see was the big action with the hippo and the lions, and you didn't care about our indigo bird, you didn't care about the sunrise. You all just want the action, the blood and the gore. It's very disappointing to both David and I. We were feeling so relaxed and hippie about the morning. Anyway, that dusky indigo bird, which we saw, I hope you'll tell Sam about. He'll be most jealous about that, of course. I know he has all the action at the moment, but he will be jealous because he was just mentioning it today, and I was saying, I've only seen one of them since I've been here. And there are some nyala. And that was the second one that I've seen. Look at these nyalas in the morning light. So pretty. Right, back to the lions, more action there.
One of them is now lying up about 50 meters from the junction at Sydney's and the access road, Buffelshoek. Come on, Link, this is probably the best. Shirley, Louise. Louise, they're going to be walking past us right now. Oh, I'm live. Wow, look how cool this is. This is awesome. Look at them walking right in front of our vehicle. What? There goes the hippo in the distance, running back into his watering hole. So, that one over there is send marking. As predicted, they were going to be walking towards their brother and finding their place in the shade. Look at the sunlight that is on this male lion. Magnificent shot. Wow, screenshot that if you can. That is a great shot of this male lion. Hello, boy. That's awesome. See, there they're off to go and lie down next to their brother in the shade. Okay, I'm going to reposition so that we can get a good view of these males. With that, let's go and see what James is doing with ground hornbills.
Just listen, everybody. Just listen. Isn't that haunting? That's the call of the ground hornbill. There's a flock of 4 of them on the ground here. I don't want to move just yet. There they come. Highly endangered bird, and such a mournful, haunting sound, which of course gives rise to its name in isiZulu, which is Utututu, on the Matapiec name. How wonderful was that? And then just quickly, as they disappear, Dave, look at the citrus swallowtail here. They seldom sit still for long enough for us to be able to film them. A butterfly there, everybody. A citrus swallowtail. And as it gets warmer, and it's getting quite hot quite quickly, that butterfly will flit around and at an amazing speed. It's the largest butterfly that we get here. the citrus swallowtail. Wonderful smaller stuff that we're seeing this morning, and the bigger stuff, of course, with the great Sam Wyers Gamgee and the Birmingham boys. There's a yellow pansy, the other butterfly that you saw there. It's not long before these butterflies pack it in for the season, I'm afraid. They've been a real joy to us. All right, let's go back to the lions. They're moving around. We're going to continue down to the south.
All four males are now walking towards each other. There they are. Lalapanzi, which means they are going to go to sleep. Ooh. What interactions we've had this morning with these male lions. So much action. I think this is it. I think this will be the spot where they lie down underneath these guarri bushes. That sun on the mane and those beautiful colored eyes. That's a fantastic shot. So you've just heard the sounds of the ground hornbill with James, and apparently you just saw an indigo bird. I literally sat with James this morning saying, I want to find an indigo bird. So that's been a fantastic morning so far. And the ground hornbill makes a very iconic sound. It's the one bird that sounds like a lion roaring. James Richard is saying it is 147, number 147, the indigo birds. Yeah, these are. So not of the indigo birds, it's the next one on his list. That's so cool, James. I'm only on like 20 at the moment. So I've still got a long way to go. Looks like they're still active. Look at that. I'm going to go to a position where we can shot. Let's watch them walk into our screen again. It was so cool when they did that last time. Get too much in their way, but I would love to see them come walk past the vehicle. Here's number one, so we're going to see all four of them hopefully walk past us. Look at those eyes, the incredible looking eyes, that darkish mane as you guys. Ooh, is there a little bit of a limp? I'm noticing a limp. There he goes. So this could very well be Scrapper, and Scrapper is going to lie right in front of our vehicle. So that was the first line. That was Scrapper. That could be Scrapper. It looked like he had a little bit of a limp. And if I'm correct, this is the male lion that is looking rather thin than most of them. But here's the other one. Let's have a look at the other male lion. So we're going to have a good look at them. Look at that light, that golden light on this lion. So who are you? So we now know Scrapper. Is he going to also lie down right in front of my vehicle? There he goes. He's found a good spot in the middle of the road. Here we go. How lucky we were to sit in this position where they would walk right past us and then sit down. Scratching himself. Scratching off all those fleas that might be bouncing around his body this morning. It looks, ooh, yeah, it does look like it's a wound. He's scratching it a lot. wonder what happened to you over there. See if he could lick it. I think he would. But he can't. I don't know if he can quite get to a position where he can lick that wound. So if anyone knows what the name of the second male lion is that just walked past our vehicle, please hashtag Safari Live or send an email at questions@wildearth.tv. I know I've had a number of tweets from different people with the different pictures of the lions. So thank you very much for those. But it's awesome to be out here with them and then understanding each one of them through looking at them. Look how close we can get to them. Wow. Ellen from North Dakota made a very, very interesting point. It looks like they haven't eaten since yesterday. I would agree with you that they haven't eaten. Their bellies are looking fairly slim. And if they were in a scrapple last night with another male lion, they probably wouldn't have had time to go on the hunt. And every other herbivore out here would have heard them fighting from very, very far away. So they would have been very aware that there are male lions in the vicinity. And often male lions aren't the best of hunters compared to the females. Females will mainly go and kill the prey, and male lions sometimes just take their prey. But I have no idea where the Nkuhumas are. Natasha from Ontario is asking, will lions scent mark in the same areas? Yes, they will most definitely. Oh, hold on. We've got another male lion coming. So we've had two of them that have walked past us. We now have the third male lion. Have a look at this one. So what can we tell? So one of them is injured. Scrappy looks a little bit thinner, and this one just looks really, really strong. Still looks like he hasn't eaten though. His mane is not as dark as the others. He is a strong looking male lion, I'll tell you that. Okay, so two of them are up now. Oh, two of them are down. One is sitting down. Where is the last male lion? There's one more male lion. And I think I can see him through the trees. He's beginning to make his way to his fellow brothers. We could see some good... How quick was that? Did you hear the sound of that lion? That was incredible. And here comes the fourth male lion. So two of them are back on the walk. The fourth one we're going to watch walk past us. Here comes the fourth male lion. Let's see what we can see from you. You're definitely not as dark as the other ones. Much, much blonder. I'm just going to get out the way so that the other vehicle can get past. It's okay. Huh? Yes, I'm live, yeah. So we just saw there's two male lions that were fighting. Not fighting, they just had a quick little scrapple. The third one's now walking. What we'll do is see if we can get to a position. See if we can get to a position where we can watch those male lions walk back into our screen. we're just going to let the other vehicle go ahead and see. Okay, we're going to make our way. Thank you. Let's get to a position where we can see these lions walking into screen again. This is so much fun. We've seen so much this morning. We've seen Pepper out of water. We've seen the two brothers have a little, look like they weren't very happy with each other, but that could also just be a little bit of play. They could have just scratched each other a little bit too hard. Just trying to see what the best position would be to do here. The one line is still very, very static. Look at them walking on the road. We could be seeing anything this morning. I don't want to follow them too closely, just because that gives away their... you can see them scent marking. So the question earlier, I think it was from Natasha from Ontario, is will they scent mark in the same places? Yes, Natasha, they most certainly do scent mark in the same places. That's how they show and build their scent marking, show other male lions that this is their place. X-Rang is asking me, has a lion ever scent marked on my vehicle? Not that I've ever seen, but let's just take a look at this. This is a great shot of a male lion making its way towards us. We've had such great visuals of the Birminghams this morning, purely because the light is so good. That morning light on these lions is just the best light we can ask for. And I can truly see their beauty through the experience of seeing them this morning. As I said, this one is the fourth one. It doesn't have as much a dark mane as the ones did before. But I'm going to be silent while we watch this male lion walk past us, just so that you can get a feeling on the presence of a male lion when it gets close. We've been so lucky this morning. He's off to his brothers to lie down yet again. Maybe we'll see some more interaction between the lions, as we saw just now. I'm just going to check the other vehicle if he wants to make his way. Just while I reposition to get a good view of these lions, and they're all mobile again, so let's try and get to a better position. With that, let's go and see what James is up to, and we'll see you now. So,
we're live.
We are.
I wonder how that happened. Hello, everybody. We're live. This new box over here is apparently where I'm plugged in. Louise, speak immediately. There we go. I've got her back. I'm not sure what happened there. Sorry about that. Luckily, I wasn't doing anything silly. I have been known to do the odd silly thing. Okay, well, I think you've been having a wonderful lion sighting. I'll tell you what we've been doing, not very much. We've driven all the way to Treehouse Dam. We've done Shibamu Road, hopefully looking for tracks of Karula. Now, there were tracks of a female leopard around exactly where we are right now yesterday, and they were going in and out of a thicket. Oh dear, Wendy. That is the second time this has happened. There we go. I think we just have to stay in first gear. I'm just trying to figure out this radio. Sorry, everyone. Okay, here we go. And the tracks were going in and out of a thicket somewhere around Twin Dams yesterday. We walked around that area while we were on our tracking team before the moonrise last night, and we didn't find anything. And so I'm just going back there to see if maybe our dear Queen hasn't brought the young prince and princess across. I don't know if they're a prince and princess. I'm just making that up. They could be 2 males. They could be 2 females. Nobody has managed to sex these cubs yet. And because she's keeping them where she is, I think very few people have spent much time around them, other than when they were being kept in that culvert on the road, when they were very small indeed. So we're going to drive slowly down here and see what we can see. I was just saying to Dave how astonishing it is that the sun is still as powerful as it seems to be. Obviously it hasn't got more powerful in universal terms, but it feels like a summer's morning, where it starts off relatively cool, and then this heat kind of just builds from very early on in the morning. But the first really nasty cold front of the cooler season has just hit the Cape. And so they're expecting 100 km/h, which is 60 mile/h winds today. And that will eventually make its way here and cool things down in this particular region as well. We're not going to complain too much. The weather has been delightful for the last 2 weeks. There we go. Ginny, we had an incident of a fairly sort of a diabolical looking bug yesterday. It wasn't a bug, but it was some kind of, I don't know what it was, maybe an earwig. That was the best the viewers could come up with. I don't know what it was. It was about that long, and it had 2 sort of poker red bits that stuck out of its back end, and it looked quite terrifying. But Jenny, I didn't find out what it was. I don't have a very good book on invertebrates that are not insects. So it was definitely not an insect, because it had many more than just 6 legs, but it definitely was an arthropod of some kind. So not a mollusk, not a snail or that sort of thing. Right, we're now getting into the region of Twin Dams, so we'll keep an eye out on the road. Ashwani, how wonderful to hear from you. You are a new viewer, and very kindly you are concerned about our safety. You're worried, you say, we're in open vehicles, are we not in danger? Ashwani, we are not in danger, no. And that's a very good question, because it seems to be illogical that we shouldn't be. There you've been watching Sam with the world's most terrifying predator sitting not maybe 3 or 4 feet from them while they're having a fight, and you'd think, well, why don't they leap into the vehicle and eat him immediately? Ashwani, there are a few reasons for it. The first is that they see the human being as a predator. The human being is a predator far more than it is a prey animal, and therefore the lions are slightly afraid of us, especially if they see us on foot. Secondly, what happens is that this vehicle they associate with a completely kind of harmless, almost banal existence in their lives. So they become totally used to the vehicle. They don't worry about its presence, its odd smells, and they just ignore it completely. And as long as humans don't stand up in the vehicle, which normally results in animals moving away, They don't react to us at all. But very good question there, and I hope that you will continue to watch us. Thank you for joining us. And tell us where you're from. You sound like you have an interesting name, so it would be very interesting to know where in the world you happen to be watching us from. And that goes for anybody who sends us through a question. Tell us where you're from. It's always fascinating to know who and where our audience comes from. Now, I see no further leopard tracks, but we'll just have a kind of potter about here and see if we can't pick something of dear Kurula and her babies up. She may well have gone back to Little Gowrie, which is the property to the south of us, where she has been storing. She has been stowing her babies. Not much going on at Twin Dams, Dave. Soon it will become a dry dam again. I think it's going to be a rough dry season, everyone. We've had a very poor rainy season. Only about a third of what we would normally get. Right, we're now on the southern boundary. We'll just have a stop over here and a listen and see what we can hear. Perhaps some alarm calling, perhaps the gentle chirruping of little leopard cubs as they try and suckle from their mother. Let me just show you something here quickly. Louise, I'm alighting from the vehicle. Doing this for two reasons. One, because there's something interesting, and one, because, well, I need a Saturday morning stretch. This great tree here is a leadwood tree.
Losing audio.
This great tree here is a leadwood tree. How's that? You can hear me?
Better, yes.
Excellent. And it is not dead. And this is amazing, I think. It has been pushed over by elephants. It would have been pushed over many, many years ago. And it has continued to grow. And you can see it's now growing up in a different direction. An elephant would never have been able to push over a leadwood tree this size.
We've got mobile lions.
Mobile lions, let's go and look at them.
We have found the lions again. It's been incredible going out with VM this morning and just thinking and trying to imagine whereabouts they're going to go. They've just walked through the thick bush and they've come out on the other side and come to relax. I wonder if this is going to be the final spot that they take. This is actually where they were yesterday. So they've, there's one coming through over here. Can you have a look? So that's two over here and there's one just walking just there through the thick bush. That's an amazing shot. Look at that as it walks through the foliage towards our vehicle. Look at those eyes. Hopefully he's going to scent mark. Watch how he rubs his face against the plants as he walks past. That is very similar to every other cat that likes to rub itself against objects and plants. That is a form of scent marking. Look at those eyes, powerful eyes, as it walks right in front of our vehicle again and takes a seat. We have been so lucky this morning just to be sitting at the right place at the right time. Look at the size of those pads, those tracks that we were looking at this morning to then find the male lions. You can tell the difference between a female and a male track quite significantly. The tracks are a lot bigger on a male lion. And when I saw those male lions on foot during my training, I was just walking deep in the south and I just came across these huge male lion tracks and my heart started to race. Here he is. I wonder which one. Yes, another one. Oh, here we go. There. Wow. Ryan is asking, what is the feeling that I get sitting so close to these animals? It's a thrill, Ryan. That's all it is. It's just a massive thrill. So one just walks a little bit further than the other. Yeah. As we spoke about tracks, we'll be able to look at those big tracks in the sand when we go past there a bit later. So you can really see how big it looks in the ground, and imagine when we look at it, what it feels like to see those tracks when you're out. Ooh, he's sitting right, he just sat up all of a sudden. So we have 3 lions here. We've got one. Ooh, there he goes. He gets back. He's going to go follow his brother. He's gone out into the thick bush. He is so close right now. You can see the different scar marks on his back. The second one's also up. They're moving. He's going to walk right in between the 2 vehicles. The thrill that I get when I'm around male lions is, it's almost like a little bit of an adrenaline rush. Because they're such powerful cats and they have such dominance on the land. There we go, rubbing his face on, following his brother by the footstep. Here comes the third one in that soft light. Look at the backlighting. The backlighting on this line. If you're a cameraman, if you're a photographer, that is a great shot because you've got such a good angle. Incredibly privileged to be watching the active male lions this morning. Jody from New Mexico is asking, will a coalition accept a new member into the coalition? Yes, they most certainly will. We'll come back and show you the tracks a bit later. Let's just see where they get off to. Okay, so we're going to go in this direction. Oh, there they go. They're going to be parking off into that shade. I'm going to go into a position where... There they go. So this could be the last time that we see them moving. I'm just going to watch them move into this foliage and then I'll make my way to the other side to see what they might do. I'm just really enjoying this position because it's so great to look at these animals with the sun behind them. It just makes such a good picture. So with that, let's get back to the other side and see if we can relocate these wonderful lions that have provided such entertainment and joy today. But the question Jody was asking was, will a male lion, accept another coalition member? As all there they go. So I'm not answering that question when I can, Jody. I just want to pay attention.
Polo Road.
Do you want me to go?
Polo
Yeah.
Road.
Polo Road. So we've got another road coming up here. And I'm just going to follow this line. Not line. I'm going to follow this line while I follow the lion. We've just been walking through the bush next to us here. As I said, I don't want to make too much of a disturbance for them as they walk through their bush. I mean, imagine a big car following you wherever you went too closely. It must be quite annoying. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the road. Yeah. Oh, sorry about that. Just let the other vehicle go through. Okay. Thank you very much. You very kindly let us go first. So let's get to a position where we'll be able to watch the male lions come out of the foliage, back into shot. Can't see them at the moment. just going to hold the line somewhere around here to see if we get them coming through. I must say, this is so much fun to follow lions through the bush.
Yeah.
There we go, perfect. There they come again. So we've been very lucky this morning because we've had a lot of open area. Often we lose lions when they get active because they'll walk into the thick bushes, which makes it extremely hard to follow the lions. So so it looks like they're going to be resting there. One lion is just lied down just behind that bush over there. I can't see any others coming through, but we're going to sit here just for a minute or two, just in the hope that they'll get back up and start walking again. In the meantime, we can go back to Jody's question on whether a coalition will let... Oh, have a look at those mouse birds as they fly off. Magnificent birds. They just flew off out of screen. They are mouse birds that we get here. And that was really quick. VM was very good on camera there. Managed to quickly get those birds flying away. But Jody, yes, especially when a new coalition is starting, brothers from other prides that have just been left the pride will form coalitions together, and then they'll become brothers and dominate the landscape together. Because as you know, life in a pack is much better than being as one individual. It gives more eyes, more opportunity for dominance, more opportunity to have territory, to look after territory. So you'll often find lions that aren't brothers come together and become brothers to look after the land that they are dominant on. So I'm going to try and get to another position of them now, because it looks like they might be resting. I think they are resting. What do you think, VM?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go and see how James is doing with the warthog.
There is a big pig, everybody, a very large warthog boar, and he's quite relaxed. He has just hidden himself a little bit behind those bushes, but he seems to be in a relative state of relaxedness with our presence, and he's enjoying himself a morning graze before he goes and finds some deep shade to lie in. Now, of course, one of the very few animals or herbivores out here that isn't a ruminant. So a pig, unlike the buffalo, the kudu, the nyala, the impala, the bushbuck, the waterbuck, which will go and have to lie up in the shade and re-chew their food and chew the cud, the pigs do not have a digestive system like that. So he can just eat once. He doesn't have to worry about eating twice. He can go and snooze. I'm just going to move a little bit forward. Is that a bit better, Dave? Not really, but more. A bit further forward. Yes, he's done a very good job of hiding himself behind the trees there. But most of the warthog here tend to take fright when they see the vehicles. They run off. But this old boy, because he's quite large, I think, and quite confident, he's quite happy to be around us. They are relatively omnivorous, are these pigs. So they're happy to eat things other than just vegetation. Well, we've come into this area while that pig disappears, and we were hoping to find some tracks of Karula. I haven't found any further tracks. We have had a pretty good look around the place, but we'll keep looking and seeing what else we can find on the way. One day, she's going to bring her babies across, and we'll be able to spend an extended period with them. Hello, Malik. You're in Texas and you're worried about snakes and reptiles, and you say, well, you know, the snakes could drop out of the trees into the vehicle and bite us or the cameraman, or even if on the tourist vehicles, they could drop out of the trees and bite the tourists. Malik, snakes in general in this particular part of the world, I'm not sure what they're like where you are, They don't generally drip from the trees. They're not, I mean, there are lots of snakes that can climb trees, but they don't tend to use those trees as hunting perches. And so, yes, while there are undoubtedly snakes in many of the trees that we're driving past, the snakes here are extremely shy, and they will normally move away from people. They'll hear us coming and they'll go away. That said, I did have one incident where I was driving off-road after some lions and through some bushes, and I moved a bush out of the way with my hand, and then I hit a stump and stopped the car and looked around to check that the guests were okay. And basically where you're sitting now, just over there, there was a guest with a face like this, and the guest was pointing at something that looked like a stick, and she was about to move it with her hand. And it was an incredibly venomous snake called a vine snake, and I said, no, don't touch that. But the snake itself had been dislodged by us bashing the bush, and it was trying to get away. So it had no desire, Malik, to fall into the vehicle and then cause havoc. I suppose you could make a movie a bit like these snakes on a plane film, snakes on a game drive. It just doesn't happen like that, you know. And, you know, for upward of 40 years now, people have been doing safaris in open vehicles, and I don't know of one incident where someone was bitten by a snake falling out of a tree. Nice question, thank you for that, Malik. It is important. There is an absolutely enormous bird there. This is another ground hornbill. I think it is. Not on the ground. You see it there? Dave, it's huge. It's just through the gap on this marula tree. So zoom into the biggest tree you can see there, and the gap on the right hand, there it's flying. There they are, ground hornbills. Sorry about that. Ground hornbills, everybody. They were just sitting in a tree. I'm sure it's the same flock we saw earlier. I did hear them calling around here. Sorry, Dave, I should have been a bit more specific about that. So, Malik and anybody else who's worried about snakes, I think there are a lot of misconceptions about Africa and the dangers posed by coming here. Snakes is one of them. We get lots of questions about them. If you were to ever to come to Africa, the last thing in the world you should be worrying about is being bitten by a snake. Yes, they are around. There are lots of them around. They're shy, they're afraid of people, and they will only bite us if they are cornered. And you can get into a situation where you corner a snake by mistake and then it might try and bite you, but otherwise it's so unlikely. It's more likely to be struck by lightning out here than it is to be bitten by a snake, and we all know how unlikely that is. And just a further conversation from that, we had a long conversation a couple of weeks back. For anybody who is thinking about traveling to Africa, or perhaps thinking, oh, I could never go to Africa, it's too dangerous, or, you know, you have some conceptions about disease and that sort of thing, send them through. We'll answer those questions and clear up some of the fears that people have about, especially coming to South Africa and the size of this continent. South African tourism took a dive because of the Ebola outbreak in Liberia and Sierra Leone last year. Now, those countries are further away from us than New York is from Los Angeles. So, I mean, they're thousands and thousands of miles away. Now, you had more chance of catching Ebola in the United States than you did in South Africa. But because people's understanding of geography, and especially African geography, mainly because we're pretty bad at publicizing it, the people were cancelling holidays. Their one-time safari holiday of a lifetime they were cancelling for fear of getting Ebola, which was crazy because there was no chance of ever getting it in South Africa. Hello, Shelley. You were asking about the Kruger National Park. You're in Arizona, where I imagine things are probably heating up now as you head into your spring. Shelley, you want to know if there is an entrance fee, first of all, for the Kruger National Park. The answer is yes, there is. For an international tourist, it's It's certainly nothing like any of the East African parks. It's much less than that. It's probably about $20, maybe $20 a day to come in. And you want to know there's a limit to the number of people? Yes, there is, absolutely. I don't know what that limit is, but certainly once the gates have had a certain number through, they won't let further people in. So if you come at a very kind of hot time of the year, or time of the year when there are lots of people, you might find yourself disappointed as a day visitor. So you can either stay in the park at one of the camps, or you can stay outside the park. There are a lot of baboon tracks around here, which is quite fun. And there are also some large raptors on the tree over there. Let's just get a quick look at them. I think they're African hawk eagles. Can you see them there, Dave? There they are. Now, of course, we will shortly be getting another camera with the super zoom. This particular one doesn't have the super zoom on it. So what we'll do is try and get a little bit closer. But before they fly off, just to let you know that those are African hawk eagles. So true eagles, and they live in pairs, and they hunt as a team. One going low, one going high. Let's just go a little bit further forward. I tell you, the heat is building unbelievably for this time of year. I think it's probably already about 27 degrees, pushing 80 degrees, and we barely hit 7 o'clock in the morning. The flies are having a great time. They are in a great state of euphoria as a result of the weather. They are enthusiastically chewing on every piece of me that they can get at. Dave as well. They're in my ears, in my nose, in my mouth. It's disgusting. Ooh, this is amazing, everybody. This is incredible. To have a view of these eagles at such close quarters. We're now about 70 meters from them or so. That's about 220 feet odd. It is stunning. So the African hawk eagle, I can't tell which is Mr. and which is Mrs. You can tell by the size. The Mrs. is larger than the Mr. So if you are able to see which one is bigger, Louise reckons the one on the left looks larger. Louise, I'm going to have to disagree with you there. I think the one on the right looks larger, and I think that's because it's sitting lower down. I think the white front looks to me like it slightly makes it look bigger in the screen. But I might be quite wrong. I'm just going to check quickly on my bird app exactly what the size difference is. So the male is 1.3 kilos, the female 1.6. It doesn't give the height, which is particularly stupid. 63 centimeters in total. So that's basically 2 feet tall. She's probably about an inch or two longer than him, so it'd be quite difficult to tell. And they largely eat game birds like francolin and guinea fowl, but they will take the odd mammal, mongoose, a bush baby, it says, and a fruit bat. Well, I can understand it being able to catch a fruit bat, but a bush baby, of course, lives in a tree hole, and how that bird would... Yeah, that was inevitable. That was a fly making its way down into my stomach. Whew, delicious. A bush baby lives in a tree hole. All right, let's go a little bit forward and see if we can't get an even better view. I got to tell you, these flies are quite something. I can't remember a year where I've experienced them like this. Now, Machumba, you're in Seattle, where I imagine it is still raining. And you want to know about the booted eagle, which is a very rare eagle. It's not very rare, but it's... Ooh, don't fly, don't fly, don't fly, don't fly. But we don't commonly see the booted eagle here, Machumba. we could see them, but not commonly. I haven't seen one at Djuma. I have seen one in the Sabi Sands before, but not on this particular little reserve. This is amazing, everyone. We don't get to see African hawk eagles like this ever. It is truly a spectacular sighting. You can see the one just nearly took off there, the one I think is the female. And they're just having a really pleasant Saturday morning bask in the sun here, which is exactly how Saturday morning should be, don't you think, Dave?
Absolutely.
Yes. And just listen to the doves all around. And interestingly, nothing alarm calling at those birds. Often you'll have a squirrel alarm calling or some mongoose. They will eat dwarf mongoose. Often you'll hear them alarm calling when these birds are sitting so obviously displaying themselves. Alrighty, those lions are performing beautifully this morning. Let's go back and have a look at them.
I've been told that you have had an incredible sighting of a harrier hawk. We've been very lucky to be sitting here with the lions. They've just been relaxed, lying down. There's one just to the right of us here, and there's another one that is literally was just walking about a couple of seconds ago, and he must have just sat right in front of this bush here. So we've got 2 of the male lions out of the 4 of them. I'm not sure where the other 2, there we go. We've got one that's walking. There's one walking in the distance there. Wow, this is great. So we've managed to come back and watch them walking. We've been very lucky. There he goes. He's going to come and join his brothers that are sitting here at Sandy Patch. So you've seen ground hornbills, harrier hawks, and now lions. Such diversity in one morning. So the brother is right there with the other one. I'm sure you'll be greeting the other one. Oh, we're very lucky. He's going to come past us again. Oh, I see you are with the African hawk eagle, not the harrier hawk. That must have been very cool. And I'm still very excited that you saw an indigo bird. I was literally telling James this morning that I wanted to go see them. And I was trying to remember the names of the different ones. So that's very cool that you were able to see that bird. It's not a bird that you'll find here very often. So now we have 2, 3 of them. So we're just waiting for the 4th male lion. It will probably make its way in this direction. This is probably where they're going to sit up for most of the day. So what we'll do is we're going to sit here, wait for that last lion to make its way in this direction. See if they get comfortable for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then if they look like they're going to be sitting up here for a while, myself and VM are going to move out. And all of us are going to go look for something. There's the last one. The 4th lion is mobile, everyone. So they've just been getting up, scent marking, falling back down. Getting up, scent marking, and falling back down. And the day is starting to get a little bit hotter as the minutes go by. And I think they will be wanting to rest for the rest of the day, which is exciting news because they're still on Vuyatela, which means that we've had 3 days of viewing the beautiful Birmingham boys. We've really got to get to know you over the last 2 days for me. Walking right up to our vehicle again. Amazing sighting. So he's sitting back down now. He walked right past our vehicle And now he went and lay down with his brother. And Deb from Ohio was asking, when we saw that little fight interaction between the two brothers a little bit earlier, it made Deb think that would two male lions within a coalition ever go against each other and fight? There definitely are stories of male brothers that have got angry with each other and decided that they want nothing to do with each other. I have never ever seen that before, but they will probably try and kill each other if it got to a point where they wanted to, get away from each other, because obviously if they turn on each other, they become enemies. And all lions that aren't brothers out here in the bushveld, especially big male lions, will want to show dominance. They'll want to show territory. So if it did get to a position where these two male lions in front of us got angry with each other and wanted to split the coalition, they would most likely fight to the death, or one of them would feel weaker and would leave, and we wouldn't see that male again. So exactly what we wanted to see. We wanted to see all four lions coming out of the bush and find their way towards the shade. It's getting a lot hotter now, so I doubt that they're going to get up again to go for a walk, but you never know. They've been very active this morning. They've shown us some amazing images of them. My favorite part of the morning, though, was when we just found them, and then we noticed the hippos in the distance, or the hippo in the distance, and it made those beautiful sounds. Dawn from Alabama is asking, would medical attention ever be given to a male lion out here? And it's not a silly question at all. I think it's a good question. We wouldn't have anything to do with the lion purely because that's interacting too much. It's something that we shouldn't put our hands into. But if it did get to the point that the lions contracted some very, very bad disease, they would definitely take it to the authorities and try and deal with it as best as possible to try and prevent it from spreading throughout the bushveld. It's a good question. So you can see now, just by the body posture of these lions, that they almost look like they're going to be sitting here for the rest of the day. And it's really not far from where they were yesterday. So they were at Sandy Patch, is where we are now, and they must have walked the territory of Vuyatela and St. Marked and made those loud noises all over the reserve, and then come back down to Sandy Patch because they quite liked this place and had another sleep. A new viewer, Mandy from Canada, welcome to Live Safari here with Wild Earth TV. You're asking, how often do lions need to eat? So it's very variable. It's determined on what is out there in the bush, depending on the availability of water and food. And they need to eat at least within every 2 to 3 days. They are very opportunistic animals, so whenever they get the opportunity to take anything that's out there, they'll eat. So if they find a leopard that's on a kudu, they'll take that kudu from the leopard and eat it. But if there's even something small that's walking past them that they have the ability to catch, they'll eat it. So they need to eat at least every 2 to 3 days to fill them up. And what we've noticed, Mandy from Canada, is that they are rather thin this morning, which means that they probably didn't feed last night. So they're going to be hungry as the day progresses, and we should be able to see some good action this evening when they get mobile. Potentially they'll get mobile a little earlier than what they usually do, because their stomachs will be so empty that they want food. So we're actually in quite a nice Sodexat open area where there's all the potential in the world that a wildebeest or a buffalo, which they enjoy. From my knowledge of learning about the Birmingham boys, is that they love to eat buffalo. They like to eat buffalo. So the opportunity this evening that these boys might want to find a buffalo for supper is huge. The fact that they looked quite skinny and quite hungry might mean that they want a big meal to feast on. So you have all the chance of watching male lions on a buffalo this evening. You never know. James is sitting with a hippo at Buffelshoek Dam. Let's go and see how he's doing.
Yes, I am with a hippo, but not only one hippo, everybody. If you look just carefully behind there, you will see that there are two hippos. And perhaps it is the return of Bob, the erstwhile bachelor of Buffelshoek, and his consort, Princess Daisy, so named by Gracie, aged 8, of Ohio. What I would just like you to take extra special note of here is the design of the hippopotamus's skull. Notice how his nose for smelling, his eyes for seeing, and ears for hearing, obviously, stick out of the water on a flat plane, which means that he can put everything else under the water in complete safety while having all three of those senses fully functional. I think it's the most brilliant design. See that? Sorry, what's that? Oh, it was a fork-tailed drongo. Fork-tailed drongos hawking insects off the surface of the water. Excuse me, everybody. Lots of flies about the place, flying into my mouth. And the other thing to say about that design, of course, is, and you might not notice how brilliant it is until you've ever tried to kind of stick your head up above a parapet while you're sort of trying to spy on someone. Obviously, a good 2 or 3 inches of your head becomes obvious before you're able to stick your eyes over whatever it is you're trying to look through. And while that is a great disadvantage if you happen to be in a First World War trench, it doesn't really make a difference to our lives at this stage. But a hippopotamus, of course, would have made the ultimate trench animal. Stick its nose, eyes, and ears over the top before any of the vulnerable bits of its body have to be exposed. And I think it's the most amazing design. And it speaks to our prehistory, because there is nothing that threatens a hippopotamus in the water at this present day. And so that adaptation, which I think is very clearly an adaptation for predation, clearly evolved at a time when there were predators large enough to hurt a hippopotamus. Now, away from the hippopotamus, on the shoreline here, the southern shoreline of Lake Buffelshoek, we have here a great collection of serrated hinged terrapins, probably 100 of them. They're all knocking about here, eating algae and insects when they can find them. But there are big ones and little ones and medium ones and fat ones and thin ones. And all of them have exploded into life as a result of the late summer rains that we did have. And when the rains disappear, these chaps will find themselves a little piece of mud. They'll go down into that mud, bury down deep, shut down their systems in a manner that I suppose most people would understand as hibernation. But in this particular part of the world is called estivation, because it is done not for the cold, but for the dry. They could quite happily survive in the winter, I suspect, or quite happily get on with life in the winter, because it doesn't get that cold here. Now, just to give you an idea, I think the biggest ones there will probably be about a foot long. And if you don't know what a terrapin is, everyone, it's like a freshwater turtle. That's really cool. All right, well, all is at peace here at Buffelshoek, and as those cats who you've been looking at the whole morning have done. I mean, they've gone to sleep now pretty much. So it will happen with most of the animals around here now. They'll start to settle down for the midday lull. Righty, that was Beefle's Hook Dam. Let's head back across to those cats where Sam is continuing his observations.
Have a look at this male lion track that we can see here. You can see it is rather big, but it's actually quite difficult to see because of, it's difficult for you to see proportion. But if you can imagine those blades of grass that are next to it, it's probably about 10 centimeters. And those are really, really big, so the size of my hand probably be the best description. Have a look at your hand, big, or my hand, and that'll be the best way in which we can show the size. But those, when you see those male lion tracks when you're walking in the bush, it is quite a frightening sight, because you can just feel how big that animal is when you look at those tracks. And it allows you to become so aware of your surroundings. That is the one thing that I really love about tracking animals in the bush, is that your presence is unlike anything the most presence you've ever been. So when I go tracking and I go look for animals, and I'm in that environment of the leopard or the lion, I begin to see and hear things that I wouldn't normally see just because I'm in the environment of the predator. So the lion and the leopard has brought so much to my view and understanding of ecology. And here he is, fast asleep. I think this is it. Ooh, could be wrong. Look at that dark mane beneath. Katrina just noted that aggression that we saw earlier could very well be because of the hunger pains that they might be experiencing. Katrina, you might be right. Think about how you feel when you're quite hungry. You start to get irritable very, very quick. You don't have as much of a tolerance as you normally have. So that could exactly be what it is. That's a very good observation, Katrina. So they could be hangry lions, which means that it's a combination of hungry and angry. You can see how tired they look, lying down there. But as I said, those hunger pains will begin to develop and they'll get up potentially a bit later in the afternoon when it cools down and they can move. The reason why they are very, very inactive during the day is that it's not as efficient to be active during the day. It helps them restore energy, get energy back when they rest in the shade during the day. You can imagine if they were trying to do a lot of things during the day, they would lose perspiration, they would become tired quickly. So becoming nocturnal is a great advantage for many predators out there, as they can be efficient with their energy. And also they can be a lot more stealthier out in the bush during the darkness. So we've had an unreal sighting here this morning with the 4 Birmingham males. We've watched them get up. We've seen hippos making a noise because of their presence. We've seen 2 of the lions having it at each other, just maybe because they could be hungry, as someone noted, which was a great observation. And now they've walked through the thicket. We followed them. VM was really good on camera to catch all those great shots that we had. And now we are going to move away from Sandy Patch because they are looking very, very rested and relaxed. And we're going to see what else we can find this morning. And if we can't find anything, we might just come back and have a look at them before we head home this morning. But there is a good chance that this evening will bring a lot of action. Thank you very much Mr. Birmingham boys. It's been a fantastic morning with you all. We are off now to see what we can find on this savannah morning. Let's just say we've said goodbye to one of them. The other three, let's just let you all know where they are so that you can have peace of mind that they're all nice and static underneath these trees. As you'll notice, the area is quite open that we're coming around, which will make viewing later a lot better. So the other three are just over there. I'm just going to get past this bush and you'll be able to see those male lions. There they are. Number one was down there, and these are the other three that are here in the shade, going to be resting for the rest of the day. With that, we're not resting. We're going to get up and active to see what else we might be able to find this morning. We've got someone that's coming through. I just need to get on the radio and let everyone know that we are leaving the lions. While I do that, let's go and get an update from James to see how James has been. It sounds like he's had a really fun morning with terrapins, hornbills, and all the beautiful bush. So we'll see you just now.
We are now heading down along the banks of the Great Mulwati drainage line, raging torrent that it is. There it is, David. Can you see the raging torrent?
Not quite.
You can almost not hear yourself think for the rushing of the water. I'm obviously being totally sarcastic. There is no water at the Mulwati drainage line, and unless there was a substantial amount of rain, roughly akin to that experienced by Noah and his ilk way back when, this drainage line will not in fact flow. And that is the state of play for most of the rivers here in the Lowveld, and they speak quite an interesting history, where it must have been wetter in this area. And I know in ancient prehistory, this was a sea. We were all part of a sea, but I mean, that was many, many tens of, or hundreds of thousands, millions of years ago, actually. But since then, there must have been a greater amount of rain than there is now for all these rivers to have formed over the years. Anyway, David and I were just saying how amazed we are that there are no elephants today. We've looked all over this reserve. We've driven to the far southeast. We've driven to the far northeast. We've driven to the far northwest. And we found no elephants. So what we're going to do is now head on to the southern boundary and head towards Arathusa and see if there isn't something going on over there. Because at the moment, Djuma is in a very sort of summery lull, which is very pleasant, but it's not very action-filled. But for the flies, which are deeply enthusiastic. There's a pig up ahead. And Davin, in the Netherlands, your question could not have been more perfectly timed if you'd tried it, Davin. For there are the animals about which you have given us a query. You want to know what the difference between that thing, a warthog, a pumba, is from a bush pig. A bush pig, Davin, is a bit bigger. It's got sort of reddish hair. It looks like a wild boar. So if you can think of a European wild boar, that's what a bush pig looks like. I'll attempt to find you a picture. I don't think I have a very good picture, but I do have a picture. But they also, Dave, another major difference is the amount that they, or the diet. So whereas a bush pig is almost completely omnivorous, they eat quite a lot of meat. A warthog doesn't eat that much meat. They eat largely just roots and shoots and things like that. There is the picture of the warthog. Hang on, sorry everybody's incompetent use of the field guide. Here we go. so dark, but when you're ready. There is the bush pig, and there is the warthog. Now, this is obviously not drawn to scale, for a hippopotamus is quite larger than a bush pig or warthog. But the bush pig stands, it says, 85 centimeters at the shoulder. That's about 2.5 feet. In fact, it's exactly 2.5 feet. And the warthog just slightly shorter than that. You can see the red color and the mane, very obvious white mane that runs along the top of the bush pig. They are found here every so often, but very unusually so. They really are not, they're not very common at all. Thank you, David, all the way from the Netherlands. I hope you're having a wonderful Saturday morning in the springtime. I wonder, a bit like I do for the query we had from Seattle, whether the rain has stopped. Oh, look at that little thing just scratching its bottom on the wildebeest and buffalo's rubbing post. That is a very well-used rubbing post, probably been used for tens of years by buffalo, rhino, warthog, possibly elephants, definitely wildebeest. The flies are quite something. I also want to see what they're eating here. You see the one there on its knees. And they're just digging up the kind of underground stems of the grass, which are very nutritious indeed. And that's much easily affected on the knees. They've been sitting in a pan. There's some mud wallows around here, and those pigs will love to be in the mud wallows during the course of a hot summer's day like this, or summery feeling day like this. We're supposed to be in the middle of autumn now. But the weather has been all cockeyed the whole year. Right, let us continue along here. And if anyone can tell me what the etymology of the word cockeyed is, I have no idea. Anna-Marie, I agree with you completely that the universe hath not smiled on me with great abundance like it hath Sam the Hobbit. You say that I deserve to find a leopard or a cheetah. I agree. I think I do deserve to find a leopard or a cheetah. Just have a quick look at this rubbing post. I'm going to get out of the car. Can you even see it, David? And I'll just give you an impression of what it feels like. The warthog are going to scarper as I get out of the car, but don't worry, they will recover their fright. They will immediately assume that I want to eat them, which I do not. And that is not to cast aspersions on warthog meat. Warthog meat is very delicious. I suppose I shouldn't have said that so close to them. You might be able to get a two-shot of me and the warthog. No? Yes? Amazing. So here, this old stump of what looks like either a small leadwood, in fact I think it probably was a small leadwood tree, has been rubbed smooth and polished over many, many years. And it just feels like history, you know. It feels like an old, well-worn piece of furniture that you might find in your grandmother's home, like an antique piece of furniture that has been well used and well loved by many families over the years. And that's the kind of feeling you get being around this rubbing post. Countless warthogs and buffalo who have gone on to, whatever place they go to when they shake off this mortal coil, have rubbed themselves and itched themselves on this little stump. While that's not a leopard or a cheetah, I do think it's quite a nice sort of piece of history, and the number of stories that this little stump has to tell must be quite phenomenal. I'm quite pleased those warthogs didn't panic entirely. They're still sitting off in the bushes there. I will attempt not to slam this wire in the door as I did the last time I got out. It has resulted in my saying a bad word, everyone. even than cockeyed. I don't think I've used the word cockeyed for 20 years. I think I shall use it again. It's a good word. Bill, you're in South Carolina. Please excuse my southern accent. I have a ubiquitous sort of I try to put on a southern accent that covers all the southern states. It's not very good, and I embarrass myself every time I do it, but I can't help myself. Bill, in South Carolina, you're worried about bees. And am I not ever worried that we're going to come across a hive of African honeybees which will then attack us mercilessly and sting us into oblivion? Bill, no, I'm not. There are two reasons for that. The first is that I'm not allergic to bees, and so it doesn't particularly worry me. The second is the chances of that happening are so small. Again, you've probably got a greater chance of being struck by lightning out here in the middle of winter than you do of knocking over a hive of honeybees. Honeybees, lots around. They produce their honey in the notches of trees normally, if they're not in a hive. And, you know, they're not... There seems again to be a legend of how vicious African bees are. And if you see one, you know, there's this term, African killer bees. And we don't get African killer bees here. So, no, I'm not particularly worried about it. I've seen many bees out here, and they generally are entirely peaceable. That said, and your fears here are valid, if you do disturb a hive or a swarm that is... You know, maybe you kick over a hive by mistake, you can get yourself into big trouble. And if you are allergic to bees at all, well, then it can be almost deathly. And I do have a friend, or a chap I trained with, who went on to become a land manager at a reserve called Phinda down in Natal, or KwaZulu-Natal. He, while he was doing his job one day, he did exactly that. He knocked over a honeybee's nest, and they swarmed, and they went for him and his mate, and they could not away from them. The only way they could get away from them was to dive into a pan, and they didn't have, there were crocodiles in there, hippos in there. They had to dive into the water, and then every time they stuck their heads up to breathe, the bees would nibble them. I think this ordeal went on for about half an hour.
So we are driving currently on Balanites, and we are seeing elephant footprints everywhere. We can see the trunks scraping on the ground just in front of us. So there's even dung, loads of dung everywhere, so we've got a good chance of seeing some elephants. We're going to move nice and slowly to see if we can see them. We've had a fantastic morning with the Birmingham boys, and now we're going to see what else the Savannah might be able to give us this morning. Here on Djuma. So apparently there were some brown hornbills that were seen around this area. You've been sitting with them this morning. It will always be very cool to sit with them again, just after being with lions, you know, because the ground hornbills, as I think James would have shown you, I don't know if he actually did show you. Oh well, you have a look here. It looks like an elephant is sat down almost. Let's try and get another position. Quite interesting to see that. So we are on the track for some elephants. But that sound of the ground hornbill is unreal, hey? It's like very, very strong. I can't even try and act it out, but I'm sure James can. James is so good at doing any kind of impression. Hilarious. So he was actually imitating his call. I should get him to give me a few tips on trying to make bird calls. I tried to make one of the black-belly bustard when we went to Cheetah Plains yesterday, and it didn't work very well. Okay, so we're gonna see if we can see them. We can see that the ellies have been here also, because all the branches have been broken, trees have been stripped, Cheryl from California is asking. Cheryl from California is asking, do all birds other than ostrich, have nests in the trees? No. So there's very, very varied the way in which birds are. They get ground nesting bird and you get tree nesting birds. And a ground nesting bird is like the lapwing that we saw yesterday. We saw a lapwing yesterday. I don't know if it was on live TV, but we definitely saw one. And they'll find little places to nest on the ground, on the open areas. So you won't find a lapwing here. But when we go to Cheetah Plains, I'll make sure, Cheryl, that I can see if we can find a nest for a lapwing. So I went to Cheetah Plains for the first time yesterday. That was quite an experience. It's so cool to go into those open areas. It creates such a different ambience compared to this thick foliage. And with that ambience and with that different form of landscape come different types of animals and different types of plants that will exist in that area. So the ecology of Cheetah Plains is very different to that of Arathusa and Djuma. I still haven't spent much time in Arathusa. I need to go and see that place, explore, see what we can find. How many of you all like to go and be explorers and to go and find places you've never been before? When I was living in the Amazon last year for a couple of weeks, I would get out into a canoe and I would just go down one of the tributaries. A tributary is like another part of the river, and I would just go and look and see what I could find. And it's just incredible just to go in an area that you have absolutely no familiarization with, to learn a little bit more about it, to see the different types of kingfishers that are there. Seeing new land, new things, it's always a very exciting thing to do out in the bush and wherever you are in the world. So there's still tracks. If you look ahead of us, tracks of the elephants that are moving ahead of us. Tanner's asking, do we have any parrots here? Yes, we most definitely do. We have the brown-headed parrot, which has a very, very cool sound. And you'll often finding it eating the different types of fruits that are here in the bush. I've only ever seen it once, so hopefully you'll see it again. But they're normally here during the summer months, which means like there's more fruits on the trees, and then there's more chance of seeing the brown-headed parrots. Do you have many parrots where are you from? Oh, I saw a bird when I was in the Pantanal last year.
So back onto my bee story. I'm not sure how much of it you got there, but it all ended okay. The fellows were eventually rescued from the water, where they were stung to within an inch of their lives by the nasty African bees. So please don't worry anybody from anywhere in the world who thinks that there are going to be lots of killer bees around here. Really, there aren't. And so don't worry at all. A fly is in my left eye. David, we will not be removing it because we know what happened last time, don't we? Last time I had a fly in my eye, everybody. It was on a 3-hour solo drive, so we couldn't go across to anybody else. And Dave had to remove it from my eye live on screen. It looked like we were in the midst of an extremely romantic interaction, which was disconcerting to say the least, when the screenshots began to appear all over Twitter. Shannon, you want to know how many different kinds of flies we have here? About 7 billion, I think, Shannon. There are little ones, big ones, biting ones, horse ones, mite-like ones, robber flies. I don't know, Sharon. I'm being slightly facetious. I'd say at least, I don't know how to identify them all, but I'd say we've probably got at least 100 species of fly here. I think to identify them, you'd have to put them under a microscope. And so we could probably safely identify at least, say, I don't know, 10 or 12 families of flies, and then some of them you can get down to genus level, and some you can get down to the species level. But yeah, lots and lots of different kinds of flies. These ones that are getting at us now are, of course, not, I mean, they are flies, but there's probably only one species, one or two species, and they've been, I don't know what kind of flies they are. They're sweat flies, basically. They're from a group of flies called the sweat flies, and they will come and they sit on bushes and they wait for animals to go past, and then they swarm onto you and devour any piece of salt that there might be on your skin or anywhere around you, and then they, well, sometimes they fly off, and sometimes you have to drive at a great speed to make them go away. But I think those are the main ones. But I mean, there's a whole, the group of flies, the order of flies is called the Diptera, and the Diptera include the mosquitoes. So there are lots of different mosquito species that we get here, lots of different horse flies and robber flies and sweat flies, and there's carrion-eating flies. Not a particular branch of biology I think I'd be particularly interested in investigating too thoroughly if I was a professional entomologist, which mercifully I am not. We are going to go now towards Arathusa, and we're going to just get a quick update as to what's going on there. We've got quite a lot of time left, about 45 minutes or so, so we'll just go and see if there isn't anything somewhere close to their lodge, or perhaps on the airstrip that we can have a look at. No elephants. There are tracks of elephants going up and down the place at the moment, so maybe Sam will find them. Oh, Angie, you're in Alabama. Angie in Alabama. Andy, sorry, not Angie, Andy, and you're interested in jackals. Andy, you say you haven't seen any on the live drives. We've had, in the last 2 weeks, some wonderful jackal sightings on Cheetah Plains. Now that's the new property that we're traversing. Far to the east, they've got some open areas. So Andy, the reason you're not seeing any on Djuma, or very seldom see them on Djuma, is because there are no real clearings, no large clearings where jackals can exist comfortably. But the area on Cheetah Plains called the Cheetah Open Areas, which go into Mala Mala, there are a few different jackal couples that live there, and 2 different species. We've seen a couple of side-striped jackals and a couple of black-backed jackals there. So keep watching, Andy, and we will see them on Cheetah Plains. I find them fascinating. They really are wonderful things. Let's pop onto the Arathusa Game Drive channel and get an update from them. Sometimes that's a little difficult. Good morning, Stations Arathusa. May I have an update, please? Silence is deafening. Now that is not because they're being unfriendly and nasty to me. It's because this particular radio struggles to receive when we are broadcasting. Anyway, we're going to just continue regardless and see what we can find here. We'll go and check out the airstrip, possibly go past the water hole at the camp, and then head for home. Lots of elephant tracks around the place, where elephants have been breaking trees down and pulling grass out of the ground. We haven't found any of them today, and it is so funny how that happens. Bumping over branches that have been pushed, dung that has been deposited, and often the odd rock that has been left in the middle of the road. Now, Andy, if you look around us here, this is the kind of typical vegetation type that we'd find here. It's broad-leafed woodland, and the jackal, rather like a cheetah and a wild dog and indeed an ostrich, doesn't like this sort of habitat. They like the more open areas. Oh, interesting. There seems to be a wild dog sighting running somewhere. Just listening quickly, everybody. don't think it's on this reserve. I think it's probably on Simbambili. I will keep listening to the radio. While I do that, David, I don't know if you can see that tropical tent nest spider's web there. Can you see what I mean? We just zoom in there, left a bit, the bush behind. It's just glistening in the sunlight. Up a bit. Yeah, up a bit. Yes, and straight through there on the bush behind. If you focus in on the bush behind there, you might see it. No, let me get out. Let me get out and show it to you. It's really just special. And the intricate lattice work there is quite phenomenal. So many wires coming out of me. You see where I'm pointing? Or am I underneath the bush?
Yes, I've got a few strands of it. Yes, I see it.
So here's a tropical tent tropical tent web spider. And the spider is, can you see where I'm pointing, Dave?
Yes.
The spider is just there. You can maybe see it moving now. But the intricacy of this lattice work is quite something. There's an egg sac here, where the youngsters will be born in the safety of this nest. And unlike an orb web, let me come where I can see you. I can't see you. And I can see you, everyone. The intricacy, or the interesting thing about it is, of course, we know that the orb web spiders, which is a traditional kind of a spider, builds its web like that, so that an insect flies into it, and then they will eat it like that. But these nest or tropical tent web spiders build it with a sort of area like that into which the insects fall, and then above that they put a whole lot of knockdown threads, so an insect will fly into those and then fall down into the sticky mesh. But the strands, the individual strands there, are probably about 1 millimeter apart, and they are completely, beautifully, intricately and totally symmetrically interlaced, a bit like a trapeze artist's nest, if you can imagine that, but on micro scale. It really is quite incredible that they're able to achieve that. So that is the nest of the tropical tent web spider. Plug in again. Get in the car without slamming an important piece of wire in the door. There we go. Now our friend Samwise the Hobbit, has unfortunately lost signal on his vehicle, so you might not see him again today. But hopefully Connor McCready, our tech genius, will be able to fix that up. There was a little steenbok running through there, and I'm hoping we'll get it, David, through the Chlorus roxburghiana. No, it's run away. It's run away. Now, Cat in Tampa, wonderful question from you. Thank you very much. I love these sorts of things because it'll eventually help people to decide to come to South Africa on holiday. You say, do you need any inoculations before you come to Africa or to South Africa? No, you don't. I mean, I think that if you went to a travel clinic, whose purpose is largely to make money, they'll probably tell you that you need to have a tetanus shot, and you probably need to get a rabies shot, and you probably need to get a... What else would they tell you to get, Dave? They might tell you to get a yellow fever shot. None of which are necessary in the slightest, I wouldn't imagine, unless you're planning on being bitten by a mongoose or a rabid dog. Rabies is unnecessary. Unless you're planning to stab yourself with a rusty nail, a tetanus shot is unnecessary. And so, there's certainly, you can get lots of people who come out here with arms deeply swollen. Here is a little steenbok, hiding behind a bush. So people come out here with their arms deeply swollen, full of various kinds of medicines, that they've had to have pushed into them by travel clinics. But no, cat, very few things out here that you can get. Further north in Africa, some parts, yes, yellow fever would be a good idea if you go to the Congo or something like that. But otherwise, no, we're fairly disease-free. Well, relatively. Interestingly, when I went to Russia last year, I didn't even think about worrying about that until somebody said, have you had your encephalitis shot? And I said, well, what are you talking about? They said, all throughout Northern Europe, I think from as far west as Austria, there is a tick that carries encephalitis, which is a very serious disease indeed. Anyway, you can't even get you have to order it in advance here. You can't just walk into a travel clinic and get the shot. And so I was very careful about not walking in any grass with open skin when I was in Russia. We don't have anything like that here. You can get bitten by a tick, absolutely. And you might get what we call tick bite fever, which will lay you low for a day or so. That rhymes. Did you see that, Dave? Lay you low for a day or so. But no, it won't be particularly terrifying. The other thing you have to worry about, of course, is malaria. But I've never taken any prophylactics, and touch wood, I've never had it. You can't take prophylactics if you live in an area permanently, but you can take them if you come out here for a little while. Just going to get a quick update from Peter. Peter, do you copy, Peter? Hi, Peter. I don't think anyone's copying me. Are there any updates on Safari this morning? Copy that and confirm no update on the wild dogs. Copy, thank you very much. Wild dogs are on Simbambili. Now, I know that there are a few new viewers today. That's the reserve north of where we are now. We are not allowed to go there, I'm afraid. So no action going on here at Arathusa today either. You did have a feeling, I must confess, whenever I hear lions roaring and leopards calling in the morning just before we go out, it's almost inevitably, thankfully we did find the lions, but so often it turns into a very quiet day. I don't want to go down this road. And that is what has happened here, but for those lions that Mr. Samwise Gamgee and his hobbit friend Viam managed to find today. I can't believe I've never thought of that before. Viam, Sam and I are not very large people. We do have quite hairy feet, all three of us. Oh dear. Oh dear. Hello, Chris in St. Louis. I think you're also a new viewer, which is wonderful. I'm just going to stop here. Dave, do you see the hornbill lurking around on that knobthorn tree?
Yep.
Just get in there. He might be in a nest or thinking about a nest there. Those hornbills nest in tree holes. And Chris in St. Louis, you have watched and picked up.
I haven't got him, Jim.
Have you got him?
No, I haven't.
Okay, he's that tree. If you zoom in on that tree, no, left. That's the one. Keep going. And he's just halfway up. Sorry, go down again, down a bit. Down. There. Well done. Look how beautifully hidden he is against the tree there. It's so brilliant. It's a red-billed hornbill. I don't think he's looking for a nest. I actually think that he's fossicking about there, possibly for scorpions. Bark-dwelling scorpions. So, Chris, you have heard, seen or read that animals out here, if they eat too many fermented marula fruits, will become drunk. Chris, I think this story, this legend, comes from a film called The Gods Must Be Crazy, where it was portrayed that monkeys and elephants become drunk from marula fruits. It is untrue. Monkeys, I think the monkeys in that film, they drugged slightly. Of course, back then, animal ethics aren't quite what they are now. And elephants, I think they just sped up a whole lot of footage and filmed some angry elephants. To have the equivalent of one beer, it would have to eat something like 250 kilograms of fermenting marula fruits. Now, elephants don't eat fermenting marula fruits. The fruits almost never ferment on the ground unless you collect them and actually hold them. They don't ferment, so they don't last long enough to ferment on the ground very often. So no, it is a great misconception that animals can get drunk on the fruits that we get growing from the trees here. Thank you very much for that from Chris in St. Louis. Our aerial is no longer upright and tight. There we go, now it is upright and tight again. I don't think we've heard from you before, Chris, so thank you very much for taking the time to send us a question and, of course, giving us your time to watch us. And Shannon, we were just talking about marula trees, and do you want me to stop, Dave? Dave's just fixing the aerial, everybody. Shannon, marula trees produce nuts. You wanted to know if any other trees produce nuts. The main one out here would be a marula tree, and a marula nut is a very delicious thing. But if you think it's hard to get a walnut out of its shell, you must try and get a marula nut out of its shell. A normal nutcracker will not suffice. You have to take a brick or a large stone and smash it against an equally large stone and then sort of fish out the fragments. They are very, very difficult to get. And there are unemployed women all over this area who go and harvest the nuts after the fruit has been taken off them, and they will go and they'll sit for days just hitting these things, opening them up, taking out the nuts, putting them in a packet. And I mean, in one marula, the marula sort of pip is about that big, and inside it is probably the size you peanuts worth out of one marula. And otherwise not a great deal of beer. It's always a rare marula nut because the squirrels go crazy for them, and they, of course, with their little rodent teeth, are able to get into the marulas and eat them. Appropriately, Dave, there was a very large bird about to fly over us as we head towards the Arathusa airstrip. I'm going to guess, as it hovers there in the northerly breeze, that it is a tawny eagle, I think. Look at it hovering there. It's not quite hovering, but it's moving very slowly. One of the more common eagles we get here. It is a tawny. I'm looking at it with these spectacular binoculars lent to me. Yeah. Just turning now into the wind and going over the front of us. There we go. Bird is gone, everyone.
Got him.
You got him. Well done. It is a tawny eagle. Stunning. Well done, David. It's now turned due west towards the mountains. Now flat looking tyre here. I think we'll be okay for the rest of the drive. John, you're in Pennsylvania. You were looking at those African hawk eagles and were clearly interested in them, which, I mean, they are one of the most amazing eagles we get here. And you say, are they true eagles? Yes, John, they are true eagles. They're feathered all the way down to their legs, and I think they're from the genus Aquila as well. So they are definitely true eagles. Now, what John means, everybody, true eagle is a term that we give to birds from the genus Aquila, and birds that are feathered, raptors that are feathered all the way down their legs to their feet. So when we talk about snake eagles or fish eagles, they are not what we call true eagles. That's not to cast any aspersions on them. So, for example, I mentioned that the bald eagle in America wouldn't be classified a true eagle because it doesn't have feathers going down its legs, and there was great consternation that I was casting aspersions on the American national bird. I'm not doing that at all. It's just a slightly different kind of raptor. Why one's called a true eagle and one isn't, I couldn't begin to tell you. But so, in theory, a true eagle's got feathers all the way down to its legs. But that's not to say, I mean, we still call a Bateleur an eagle. We still call the snake eagles eagles, fish eagles eagles. There we go. That's enough on that. They are true eagles, yes. Right back onto the African hawk eagle. Dave in Toronto, you are wondering whether there are any raptors out here that eat other birds in flight. Certainly there are, plenty. Plenty. The hawk eagles will do it. They'll say, I mean, they do normally take a ground nest, a ground dwelling bird, but they will take birds in flight. The accipiters, so the kind of true hawks, if you like, the African sparrowhawk, the goshawks, the Gabar goshawk, the dark chanting goshawk, if you're really lucky enough to see it, the black sparrowhawk. They will all take birds in flight. And the other day I had a wonderful sighting of a little sparrowhawk chasing a red-backed shrike up into the air. And the only way, of course, that the red-backed shrike could get away from the sparrowhawk, because on straight line speed and diving speed it had no chance, but was to get up, because it has probably had a slightly faster ability to get up into the air because of its larger wing. What's the word? No, it's not span. It's the ratio of the span to the width, basically. It's got a larger ratio of width to length than with the sparrowhawk, so it can go up a little bit faster. So lots of birds like that. The accipiters are the birds that would catch other birds in flight. Also, some of the falcons do it a lot. And although they will take birds on the ground, you know, they're often diving. A Lanner falcon or a peregrine falcon, often you'll find them diving down at sandgrass or at doves that are at the water drinking, but those doves and sandgrass will then take off into the air, and the falcons will be able to change direction and grab them. Amazing stuff to watch. Hello, Kyle. I don't know how big a North American red-tailed hawk is. I have actually seen one. But you're interested in why it is that the hawk eagle got its name. Where did it get its name? Is it larger than the American red-tailed hawk? I don't know if it's larger. I think it probably is. It's quite a big eagle. I think you'll find it's probably the same kind of size as... what's an American equivalent? It's smaller. It would be smaller than your bald eagle, but only slightly. So just slightly smaller than American bald eagle. I'm not sure what other eagles you get around where you are, but I think if I was to guess, I mean, an African hawk eagle is 2 feet tall, so it's about that tall. That's pretty tall. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, a red-tailed hawk is probably about that size. About 1.5 feet. Kyle, I'm guessing there, but that's what I remember from when I saw it. They call a hawk eagle, Kyle, because of the way they catch their prey. They catch their prey like a hawk. And strictly speaking, to hawk means to catch in the air. So if you say that a drongo, for example, hawks insects in the air, what it's doing is catching insects on the wing, catching them flying and then eating them in the air. And that's what hawking means. So in theory, a true hawk would catch its prey in the air. Nice question. Thank you, Kyle. Right, we're going across the Arathusa Dam wall now. And we'll see what's going on there. I haven't been here for some time, I think probably 2 or 3 weeks. The excitement of Cheetah Plains has drawn me away from Arathusa. Not because it's any better, it's just because it's new. So this is the Arathusa Lodge we're going pretty much through. Some of the rooms to our left, some of the rooms to our right. So if you come out to this area, Arathusa is always a good option to come and stay at. You can see all the same bits and pieces of this great reserve that we drive her on. And then we just drive onto the top of the wall here and then stop. Lucy in South Bend, Indiana, very kindly told me about South Bend the other day. I've been wondering about this place called South Bend, Indiana for some time. Oh, there's a big herd of buffalo there, as well as some waterbuck. There are the waterbuck. And there's a herd of buffalo making its way down to drink that the guests at Arathusa will enjoy as they have their bacon and eggs and coffee and possibly some pancakes as well. Sound good, Dave?
Sounds good.
Lucy, you want to know how many planes land at the airstrip on a daily basis? Well, Lucy, probably about, there might be one a day or so. So I'd say probably about 7 a week. Sometimes I'll have 2 or 3 a day. Certainly down the south, the Singita, Londolozi, what's the other, Mala Mala, they will often have 3 or 4 planes a day. So it can get quite noisy depending on how many arrivals and departures there are. But at least 1 a day down south, and here probably maybe 1 a day, maybe half a day, if you know what I mean. So say 3 or 4 a week. We're just going to get out of the way here so that these fellows don't drive into us. Aye, minzane kwala. Mikume ina namol. Okay. I said, what did you find? He said, there's nothing. Well, other than these buffalo, I have to agree with him. Here they come down to drink, everyone. I think we might just sit here for a little while and we can have a chat while they come down to have a drink. Their Saturday morning drink. Very unusual northerly breeze at the moment. It's not common. I think the weather is going to change. I love these questions because I don't know how to answer them. And that means they normally have some discussion around them. Kat, you want to know why it is that human beings are, when they're born 2 at a time, are called twins, and when Karula has 2 cubs, they're not called twins, they're called a litter. I think I would guess, Kat, it's because for humans, twins are unusual in the same way that if an elephant has 2 babies, you don't call it a litter of elephants, you call it twins. It's extremely unusual, very, very rare. And maybe it's got to do with the fact that we're not carnivores. So all the carnivores we describe as having litters, and well, I suppose we do the same with the rodents, but the primates and the herbivores we tend to describe as having single babies or twins. That's quite interesting. Kat, I don't know. I'm guessing it's probably largely an English convention rather than a biological one, except to say that when a human being has twins, it's normally an anomaly, because when a carnivore has a litter, that's how they're designed. They're designed to have a litter of youngsters. Same thing with a rodent. And biologically, what that means, of course, is that the ovaries will ovulate more than 1 egg into the fallopian tubes in something like a rat. Whereas with a human being, for there to be 2 eggs ready for fertilization is very unusual. And likewise, a fraternal twin or an identical twin is a kind of anomaly that happens once the embryo is formed. Nice question, Kat, thank you. Makes me think. I enjoy those ones. This is unusual. It's half the herd seems to be too nervous to come down to drink or too bone idle. I'm not sure which. But given that these are the bulls, it looks like these are largely bulls at the front. I don't think it's idleness. The bulls are the most idle. There are very few cows in this group. And normally it's the cows that are the pathfinders. So maybe it's just the bulls' behavior. You know, they do love to lie about in the mud for most of the day. Maybe that's what they're coming down to do, while the females, as usual, are left to do the hard work of looking after the kids in the thicket. What do you think, Dave? Do you think that's a good answer?
That sounds about right.
Very nice. The sloshing of animal hooves in the water is a peaceful sound on a Saturday morning. Some very nice sort of colours, although they are starting to get a bit washed out now. And that's because the day has reached its mid-morning zenith. Yes, I can see the white tablecloth in Arethusa prepared for breakfast. Soon there will be people supping on my favourite meal of the day. What's your favourite meal of the day, David?
Dinner time.
Dinner time. And two possible etymological origins of the word cockeyed that have come through for those of you who are interested while the buffalo have a swim. Doesn't that look like a nice thing to be doing on a hot day? Jumping into the water and cooling off. Of course, as humans, we can't do that around here because a hippo might bite us or a crocodile might bite us too. So we have to content ourselves with a cold shower. There's a buffalo bull doing exactly what buffalo bulls do best. You see that one having a roll about in the mud there. Ah, you can hear him sighing with joy. Anyway, as he lies there, two origins of the word cockeyed. One from the Gaelic word coch, meaning to wink. I'm not sure why that would be cockeyed. It sounds to me that the English origin, meaning to set something askew, put something sideways, so like a cocked die, I guess, or a cocked gun would seem to be the more obvious origin. Thank you for that, Luisi. Here come the rest of the herd, or some of them. This is just wonderful. We're going to leave these buffalo now because I don't want to be in front of the lodge when the guests have their breakfast. They don't need to be staring at us. So we're going to press on from here. Gerda, you say the only thing you need to worry about when you come to Africa is being bitten by the Africa bug. And what you mean, of course, is that once you've come here, you will be infected by the place and you'll have to come back again and again. And I think that's brilliant. Thank you, Gerda, for that. I think that's comment of the day. I think it's very true indeed. Maddie in Scotland, and Bonnie, Scotland, from where my ancestors originally. Obviously originally, because that's why they're called originated. Anyway, you want to know about the water hyacinth and how it is that it is in this dam, and is it indigenous? It is not indigenous, Maddie. We don't know where it's from entirely. I'm sure some people do. I just don't know where it's from. I don't know how it got here. We probably don't know how it got here. and they've tried to clean it out, and they have spent time actually just hauling it out manually, but it comes back at an astonishing speed, especially when the water is standing and there's no kind of influx of new water. So, I mean, you would have seen that dam at various stages with far less water hyacinth on its surface than it has now, but because it's just been getting steadily lower and lower, I think that hyacinth has been allowed to kind of develop. I've seen hippos having the odd bite at it, but not much, and I think you'll find it'll probably choke itself out once that dam dries out. And interestingly, it's never arrived at Buffelshoek Dam. I don't know if it's ever been at Djuma Dam, certainly not while I've been here. But I suppose it could possibly arrive in, here are these beefaloes crossing the road now in front of us. Half the herd not wanting to join the boys at the bar. Just give you a sense of the sound of them as we go through here. You can hear the oxpeckers going chip 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 chip. And here comes a little one. Look at this. This is quite nice, Dave. Just over the top of my head here, there's a little group of cows, but behind them there's a huge bull with enormous horns, and he seems to be accompanying a little calf. That's very sweet. It's also very unusual. The bulls, of course, play no parental role other than attempting to protect the herd from the attentions of lions. There's a tiny little baby. That cannot be more than a week old, if that. See how still unsure it is of its feet? Sweet. Right, let us carry on. There are a few more. Hello. How are you today? Yes? Good day? Yes, we smell the same as we did last time. Don't look so surprised. They have such individual faces, don't they? The big, mature, prime bull on the left-hand side there. A fairly... looks like she's got a problem with her eye there in the middle. And as Louise says, I agree with her completely. She says their different horns look like different hairdos. It's exactly what they look like. It's precisely, they look like they have different hairdos. And of course our most famous buffalo at the moment, named Taylor, after Taylor Lautner. He is not amongst this lot, but he has a hairdo, or his horns look like Taylor Lautner's hairdo. I do hope that Taylor Lautner never watches a show where that buffalo is compared with him, and I'm sure many of his ardent and very vociferous female fans would be scandalized that we'd compared him with an African buffalo. Certainly it looks anyway. And Luke, you say beefalo is such a funny term, and you use it also where you are in South Dakota, I think, to describe the bison that you have there and all bovines. Yes, I agree. I think it's a lovely term, beefalos. And they do, of course, make pretty good eating, but they're not domesticatable. And their meat is quite tough, but they make very good meat production, and actually very good milk production as well. But of course, if you try and milk a buffalo, it's highly likely it'll be the last thing you ever milk. Sorry, Louise, you'll have to go again with that. We're not copying you that well. There we go. Right. Very good question here while we drive along. I like these discussions that we have when we're not seeing very much. Virginia in Kentucky, you are worried about or interested in what happens when elephants die, and do they remove the tusks so that poachers can't get them? Yes, they do. Absolutely. If an elephant is found dead, they will certainly remove the tusks. Many elephants, of course, are never found. And many rhino that die of natural causes are never found either, because this is a very big area and there are large expanses of it that are not covered by roads. But yes, absolutely, if both rhino or elephant are found, their tusks or horns will be removed and stockpiled. And we had an interesting question. I was sent a question about why it is that we don't show rhino, and I mean many of you will know we don't show rhino because we don't want to sort of indicate their position to potential poachers, so we just keep away from them, even though the chances are very small. We don't want to have any effect at all. And somebody said to me the other day, well, why on earth do you show elephants then that have big tusks? And I thought it was a very valid question, but the answer is that they in the Kruger Park are not under anything like the threat that they are anywhere else in Africa. So many elephant populations in Africa and Tanzania, they live in these vast and almost unprotected areas where it's not that hard for a poacher to get in. But in the Kruger National Park, I think they've lost one elephant to poaching in maybe one. They probably lose one or two a year. So that's really it's not a major train smash at the moment. And hopefully it will never get to the stage where we are, like rhino, unable. But certainly it was a good question, and we are getting to the stage in certainly northern parts of Africa where the elephants are getting into trouble. Kat, there's absolutely no reason for you to apologize. You're worried about why the ground hornbill is so endangered, and you apologize because you say you can't remember. Kat, I can sometimes not remember my name when I get up in the morning, so I wouldn't worry about that at all. Kat, it's largely due to habitat loss. They nest in large trees, in very big trees. They need cavities in trees that are sort of that big. And I mean, you can imagine the size of the tree that has a cavity that size. It's obviously a very large tree. And there aren't that many of them around, and especially outside of protected areas. And then, of course, in areas where there certainly were trees of that size, what's happened is that human beings have pumped water all over these protected areas, which have attracted elephants to areas where there are large trees, and the elephants have often pushed those trees over. So we think that's the major reason. I think they also get poached outside of protected areas. There are various superstitions associated with eating them or selling off their body parts to traditional medicine people. So that is another major issue. In protected areas, though, like this, they're okay. A bit like a Bateleur eagle, which is common in protected areas but doesn't occur outside of protected areas at all. Right, we're going to cross back onto Djuma now. And Carla, a brilliant suggestion from you. Can't they build artificial nesting areas for the ground hornbills? Carla in Kansas, yes, they can and they do. They have done that with some success and with some limited success. I'm not sure of the ins and outs of why it has worked to a certain extent. The hornbill population certainly haven't recovered completely, but they are doing better than they were, say, 10 years ago. And one of the reasons is the building of nesting boxes and hanging them around. The other thing that they do, the other method that they use to conserve them, is to kidnap the youngster once it is hatched. Because normally what happens, in fact, that they take the egg out of the nest and they incubate it. Ground hornbills will lay 2 eggs, but they will neglect one of them. Only one of them will hatch. And so 2 or 3 days after the nesting takes place, after they lay the eggs, the researchers will go into the nests, take away one of the eggs and incubate them, and then try and raise those birds in a zoo environment or that sort of rehabilitation environment, and then try and reintroduce them to the wild. And they have had quite a lot of success with that. It's not always that easy because, of course, a ground hornbill is a flocking bird. It doesn't live on its own, so you have to introduce it to a flock. It only breeds at the year 9. So it takes 9 years for it to be able to breed at all. And then it is a notorious slow breeder as well. I suppose I should have mentioned this initially. It's a notoriously slow breeder. And so some years it just won't bother. If it's disturbed or, the nesting site is not quite right, then the flock just won't breed that year. And so, then they go on and on and on. So I think a female can also they will only raise a chick every 2 or 3 years in a flock. So you can imagine if they're disturbed for 1 year and they don't decide to breed, it can throw things out for quite some time. So 9 years before a youngster introduced to a flock can breed or is able to get to the stage where they will breed. So lots of complicated reasons why the ground hornbill is no longer a common and ubiquitous species. I doubt it was ever that common though. I'm pretty sure that you'll find that while its numbers have certainly declined, I don't think you'll ever find that it was as abundant as the starling, for example. In much the same way that lions are not as abundant as impala. And I must just apologize, Sam is not going to make it back out again. Rusty has given up on him. Now, Bugsy M, you say a beefalo is actually a real term for a sort of hybrid between a domestic buffalo and a wild bison. I'm assuming you mean a bison that has been domesticated and then bred with a wild bison. I can't imagine are there 2 different species of buffalo that are hybridized? That's quite interesting. I know you can get buffalo burgers, can't you, in the States in some places. I believe the bison is very good eating. Thank you for that, Bugsy. If you could just clarify that would be great. Oh, and Linda, you were with us the other day when we saw that tiny little baby buffalo being born, or not being born. It had just been born. It still had its umbilical cord hanging out of it, and it was a cheetah plains. You're wondering if that little one could be the same. No, I really don't think that little baby would have come this far, and I don't think that herd from Cheetah Plains comes this far across. I think it probably goes into the Kruger National Park and doesn't hang around too much in this area, whereas that herd spends its time off to the west towards Elephant Plains. This is interesting. So now Google is telling us that a beefalo is, as Bugsy says, a domestic American cattle breed. I'm going to have to look that up so that I understand it correctly. Also known as catalo, not just beefalo. But it is a hybrid, apparently. That's very interesting. Thank you for that, Bugsy, for putting us onto that knowledge. The wind is now starting to blow quite strongly from the north, and I suspect it's a forerunner of that great front that has just bashed into the southern end of Africa, the first of many over the next few months during the Cape winter. And our weather will change as well, just a few days afterwards. Sam, like I say, is not going to be around for the rest of the drive, which consists of about 25 seconds now. So I will close for him and say thank you from him, the team of hobbits that were on Rusty this morning with the lions, Viam and Sam And a big thanks to Dave. Thank you, David, for your efforts today. And mostly to all of you, your questions and comments. You've been just great today, and we've had some wonderful discussions. We'll see you this afternoon at 3:30. Bye-bye.